Okay. So these are the four things I was going to cover. I'm also going to go over to NVAR and look up the new forms, which just started July 1, and make sure everyone's on board with that. Um, Number one, negotiations, how to keep your deal together and how to exit when necessary. This week, a couple of things came up. One was a deal where the sellers had already let the buyer extend about three times. And so the question was, and I'm just going to walk you through how we got through it. Investor, he had a deposit of about $30,000, and it got a challenge with the buyer agent. The listing agent was like, "What's going on?" And he said, "I need to extend." So they extended it the first week. And because the investor that was selling had bought it as a foreclosure, and the project was not completed. Okay, it was a rehab, and so there were issues with some people in the neighborhood saying the previous guy that went bankrupt caused me problems. So there's a lot of headaches going back and forth. So this guy that was buying it said, I don't have my financing in place. Can you give me another week? I'll have it done. They forwarded it to another week. Uh, Long story short, the LLC he was buying it with, the other people in the LLC wanted to pull out, so he was creating another LLC to do it with, and it was cash, so he thought that's okay. And then he had to extend another week, and then by the third time, the seller's like, "We don't think you can perform." So and he goes, I am going to perform. I'm going to get my money. I'm going to move forward. And they said, "Great, give us more deposit money." So a couple of things on this one on the deposit money. He'd already had his 30 grand in the bank. Now he's adding another deposit to keep them in the game. The question here is, how do you handle deposit money that's not at the point of the ratified contract? Because what do we say about that deposit money? When does that have to be popped into the escrow account?
Are you talking about the EMD deposit?
Yeah, EMD, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't that have to go at the end, like when they close?
No, the EMD goes in according to the
Right.
time element you've given it, which we said, hey, you have
Right.
3 days, you got to be in. But now,
Okay.
2 weeks later, with a
Okay.
second extension, we have another, hey, we want you to increase your EMD. So is it guided by all the rules and regulations of the EMD um,
It,
paragraph?
it
No, because
depends
it's not in the
if you
contract, right?
if you amend the contract and increase
Yeah.
the EMD amount, then it's
Mhm.
EMD.
Right. It's EMD. So then it has to be done. What has to happen to it? The new EMD 2 weeks later, where's it got to show up?
Whoever's holding it, right? I mean,
The
it's got to show up
buyer's
within
supposed to
2 days.
the buyer's supposed to pop it into the account to the title company. And then the title company said, we don't have it. We still don't have this extra deposit. And this guy is riding along with the 7 days to try to get it going. And so to get his other stuff together, the buyer agent, he goes to the buyer agent. The buyer agent finally gets him to call back while she's on the phone with me. And he goes, "Hey, he just called me back. Let me get off here." Because the listing company's like, "Hey, either we get and now what they want is they want the deposit money released to them, okay, to move forward. Sure, you can do an extra deposit, and we want the deposit released to us for permission for you to move forward." So that's what they all want, because the only option the seller has at this point is to do what when the if they want to move forward and they got this secondary deposit that has not been deposited. When you know your deposit money has not been deposited, what's the seller's option?
Back out.
That's it. That's all they can do. And so here's what I'm trying to think. How do we keep it all together? Get the buyer in line with what he should be doing and satisfy the demands of the seller, who are rightfully it's the buyer's obviously in default.
Yeah.
So here's where go ahead. Somebody had a comment. Or was that a call? Okay. So I know that in the Metro or the Bright MLS, almost 20% of all deals are falling out. Okay. They're ratified and they fall out. 1 out of 5. So my job and my task is to try to help keep these things intact. So part of the negotiation thing here is, all right, what we're going to do is, would you be okay with this and keep this together? Because if it falls apart for the seller, they're back on the market, not so sure they're going to get it again. The buyer may disappear. So we found out all the issues with the buyer. I won't go into that, but was willing to bring the deposit up. But in the addendum, we had not said that it was governed by the deposit. And this is what I got from the attorney. Well, you didn't say it was governed by the deposit paragraph. It's just an extra. It's now an addendum that you put in here. I kind of like what Scott said. If you labeled it as deposit, then it should be. But what we didn't do is, what do I want? When do I want it? And what happens if I don't get it? We didn't do that. We just said to extend the contract, the buyer will put up another X amount for deposit. That's what we said, trying to keep the deal together. So the final thing that we came up with was, this was the language. We will give you an extra deposit, extend it 1 more week or 10 days. We will release immediately the initial deposit. And if we don't close in 10 days, you get the second deposit at the end of that day. Because the deposit is supposed to either go to the buyer's expenses or to the seller because of default. Or a judge would say you release it to one party or the other. That's the way deposits run. So in keeping it together, the language was, release the deposit that you're already defaulted on, $30,000. We have a secondary deposit that we'll put into escrow. And if we don't close in 10 days, you get that money as well. Because the buyer's telling us, I really want this property. I really want this project. Are you willing to put in another X amount to make that happen? Yes, I am. Okay. Are you willing to surrender it if in 10 days you don't close? That's where we are. I didn't get the word back whether he was or not, but the emphasis here is trying to keep the deal together. And it's not that you're trying to get level heads here. I think they all were being level headed as much as they could be with the stress that they were doing. But you express that to both sides. 1 out of 5 deals are falling apart. Let's not be the 1 out of 5. Your bottom line doesn't change if you extend it another 10 days for the seller. But if we can get him to agree to surrender that on the day of, and it's signed up that if I don't close, you get it, and then we get it deposited, then the seller is hopefully comforted or whatever, that I'm going to get this extra money if I don't close. I've made up some of my carrying cost, and we can now move forward. Okay. I can put it back on the market again. Maybe I've got a double deposit instead of a single deposit. That's just something I wanted to point out on how to negotiate to keep something together. That's just one example. But most times is you want to express what to the buyer and the seller, what's the worst thing that could happen if we do A, B, or C? Are they not wanting to move forward because they're just tired of it? Because if they're just tired of it as a buyer, we got to start this process all over again. If it's a seller, we got to start this price all over again. And potentially, if the seller feels like they've been damaged, now you're going to have to go to court if this guy hasn't turned in deposit to get the deposit and any other money that you think you're deserved or was due to you because of a change in the market or your carrying cost or whatever. And so now once you go to court, all agents back up. We're not the negotiators for them between the two parties when they say we're going to court. Great. Let me refer you to an attorney.
Did I hear you say that he on the second deposit he still was having trouble coming up with that? Isn't that like
that? I don't know. That was the language we put together. This is kind of a live thing, so I'm kind of being not telling you every little bitty thing about it.
No, I'm just thinking that's good money.
Yeah.
More money.
Right. And and that's a really good point. Where's this money?
Yeah.
Maybe almost like an add-on to that. We'll agree to that, but show us the money. We want to see a receipt from the
Mhm.
title company that you've actually turned it in. If not, we're going to take your money and run. So the way I was coming with it was, look, Mr. Buyer, you're going to lose 30 grand one way or the other.
Yeah.
You're in default. Every judge is going to require that that money get turned over to the sellers, and the sellers are going to go back on the property, go back going with the property, and you are not in this project anymore to make your end run, whatever you want to get. So hopefully we got him to cross the bridge on, okay, I'll give the other amount I said I would give, I'll now give it to the title company. And then the crossing for the seller is I'll extend it 10 days and I'll reserve that extra deposit with the title company to be released to me on that day, whether we close or not. So that's an example of trying to keep it together. And I know sometimes we can get frustrated with our own clients instead of trying to work that out. So that's an example of keeping the deal together. Okay. All right. One quick thing is, has anyone gotten the text or the email? We want to buy a house. We want to buy $1 million. And can you jump on a Zoom call? Has everyone gotten that? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. By email? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That is a scam. Yeah. Kristen. Big sad face. Want to share that while you're doing all that? What's going on?
No, we've just had a couple. Usually they're like via Zillow inquiries or something, and we get the email, and then we chat with them a million times back and forth, and we set up a Zoom call, and we try to nip it in the bud by saying we will only use this our tried and trusted business Zoom link. We
Mhm.
will not, to avoid scams. And if they're legit, then they'll be like, oh, okay. But we've done this a couple times, back and forth, and still they try. Oh, it's not working. Try this one. And I'm like, well, if ours isn't working, why is yours gonna work? Right. Sometimes I like to play with them. Um, but yeah, you just have to stand firm about not clicking on any links and be upfront about this is why we're doing this. This is the way it's going to be. Even if you can't log on, it's just,
Right.
we have to use
And
our Zoom
apparently
link.
the scam's working because they keep sending it out.
Yeah.
Remember the
Yeah.
Somebody,
scam that was out there where you would get a text and it would say, "Hey, Sherry, this is Anthony. I'm at a conference. My phone quit working, but I need you to run to the store and get me some gift cards
yeah,
for someone's mother who died." And remember that one? And
yeah,
what
and
was
give me
that
the numbers off the back.
like 2018, 2019? That scam was huge. And because they would say, "This is Anthony. I'm the broker at such a," they had all the stuff. They knew everything about me, which means they probably went to my website, found out I was a broker, and they got our roster, which that's what we do. And they sent the text to everyone in the office. And then some agents would, my smart agent said, "Hey," they would text me right back, "Anthony, are you okay?" And like, well, the phone's not supposed to be working according to the one you just got. But anyway, thanks for checking in. No, it's not real. That was the scam of the year back then. And that one still goes on, apparently. But this is the latest one. I've got $1 million client. I've got a Zoom call. My wife and I want to join you, or my husband and I want to. Can you join me? We'll send you a Zoom link. That's it. When they want to send me a Zoom link, no buyer and seller, I'm sorry, no buyer and seller that I know of is that organized. Oh, we'll do a Zoom call. Let me send you the link. They're just not. They just, am I right? Thank you. It's like, yeah. And it'll be like this meeting with a bunch of names on the screen, and no, I don't see anybody. So anyway, but that link is a malware, is what it is. The link is going to put something on your computer, and that's the scam. The scam is that it's a malware link. All right. So how many have gotten that? I've gotten that. Anybody else? Yeah. The rest of you, you'll be getting it. Just coming to a phone near you. All right. So there we go. All right. Canceling an agent agreement. I'm going to go to the forms here. And this is for Virginia is what I'm going to look at. Okay. All right, let me share again and you guys can see what this is. All right. Can y'all see that screen? It's I'm like got add former document. Can y'all see that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. So you look up broker, you got broker, you got notice to terminate, and then release of representation agreement. These are the two forms you're actually going to use to cancel an agreement, whether it's a buyer, seller, tenant, landlord. So the first thing is a notice. And let's pull that up. Okay. So someone's got to give it is a form that we have, but if a buyer tells you they want to give you notice that I'm going to go a different direction, let's assume it's friendly. All right. But you put in, it's given on this date in accordance with the brokerage representation agreement dated on, May 15th. What is it? Is it exclusive right to sell, exclusive agency, listing agreement? What we would have is usually either the represent buyer or the selling listing. That's what I see these coming in at. The brokerage agreement, don't pay attention to M. Anthony Carr. I have myself in this file as a seller. The brokerage agreement is between, and you click here, this box, the seller, put their name in, or the buyer, put their name in, and the broker, KW United. Okay? The undersigned party is giving the notice. It would be, and even though you're filling it out for them, it may be your seller or your purchaser. If we're tired of them and they're just getting obnoxious and they're like breaking laws, it may be coming from us, the broker. So you click that. And then the notice is given by, this is the notice is given to. Yeah, notice to is given to the broker. All right. Then down here, who's giving the notice? The seller, the landlord. It's usually a seller or purchaser, and the notifying party signs it. That's just a notice. Remember, notices are unilateral. Any questions on this part so far? Okay. Then you have the release of brokerage representation agreement. Let me open up this one. Release of brokerage representation as of, say today, between M. Anthony Carr as a seller or landlord, or you have a buyer and the broker. Broker is going to be KW United. All right. By brokerage ratified on representation. It's a representation agreement. When everyone signs, it's ratified. Okay. So let's say it was May 15th. Notice in this agency relation was terminated by delivery of the notice to terminate. That's the other form on this date. Let's say they sent it to me today. Okay. Who is it? Seller and landlords. Okay. So in the event the release is entered into, broker agrees to promptly deliver to seller or landlord all the copies of the stuff that we've done. The listing agreement, any contracts we've gotten, all that kind of stuff. If it's not a seller or landlord, I don't check that. All right. By engaging in such brokerage agreement, the parties additionally establish contractual obligations to each other, known as brokerage relationship. Pursuant to the code, the parties mutually agree to terminate the brokerage relationship and release the parties from any terms, conditions, etc. This does or does not release them of payment obligations under the brokerage. So they could release you from the brokerage agreement. Worst case is you're in a contract and you're headed to closing and they don't want you as their agent anymore. We've had this happen only once. We clicked does not release. So the agent still got paid. Okay. We just weren't their broker anymore, but the agent still got paid. The agent and the brokerage. All right. So that, if you're not in one, you'd say it does release you from any compensation payment obligations. If applicable, seller and landlord will pay an early. So this is why I say you should have something in your agreement. And this is a early termination without cause. They just got tired of the process. They got tired of working with me. I got $1,000. The early termination will be paid to broker prior to execution of this release. Broker shall not be liable for any damages. The challenge with this, at times, probably a lot of times, is actually getting payment. So what will happen sometimes, and then it would be the brokerage agreement is terminated effective on, this date, but we want to get paid. So then you send them an invoice. I have an invoice I can share with you that I use for, and I'll show you that one in just a second. You will not always get the $1,000, y'all. I'll just tell you that. Okay. You will not always, but if you don't have the 1,000 or the 2,000 or whatever, you can't even ask for it. Okay. So I submit, put it in there. And if they're honorable people, they realize you've done all this work, you've traveled all this distance. Sure, here's $1,000. If the thing just went sideways completely and they're just angry at everybody, then we may not get that. Okay. Now, does anyone want to vent? Because I've had this go both ways. I had two that paid me and a couple that just get out of my face. And sometimes I'm not signing anything. I told you in an email, we're done. And so this seems, unless I want to go to small claims court, this is not really going anywhere. But if I don't have it in my listing agreement, in my buyer agreement, I can't even ask for it, is where I'm coming from. Okay. But those are the two documents you need to get rid of that agreement with them by paperwork. Because sometimes people just don't sign anything and they just move along and they do go sign up with someone else, or they take their house on the market, or they go rent again, or whatever. Okay. Any questions on those two forms? No? Everyone's quiet. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the other form I have is, just so you know,
Hey, Anthony.
yeah.
I know you were talking about canceling the representation, but if you have a client who is just tired of the market right now, wants to take it off for a while, and the agreement is still until the beginning of October,
Yeah.
would you just do a withdrawal so that you still have the representation?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good point. That's a withdrawal rather than a you're not trying to you're not wanting to cancel. You're wanting, yeah.
Okay.
Dang, I thought I had the invoice in here.
What about if you don't want to work with your buyer anymore? It's just,
Yeah.
I just stop answering their phone.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
this is if they still want you to work with them,
Yep.
and you say, no, I'm not, then you would just I'm sorry, I can't find my invoice, but anyway, I have an invoice and the invoice I use is one that is it's actually for my tenants. Because if I'm going for 30% and I'm going for a $250 retainer fee, I need something to send to them to get that money. And so I send them the invoice. We have wiring instructions that I send with it, or they can send me a check.
Is that the one you sent us before, Anthony?
Possibly.
Okay,
I know I've sent it out to a few people recently.
right. I
And
think you
what,
said
but what this one is that way, after the lease is done, I get my 25 or whatever percent from A, from the seller, the landlord, and then I get my additional 5% which on a $3,000 deal, that's $150 plus my $250. And I send them an invoice so they can pay me. That's what that is. Okay. Someone else have a comment? Yeah, Leah.
Is, if you have a listing agreement and it expires, and all the disclosures and so on, do you have to do new ones if we decide to relist?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The question was, if you have an agreement and it expires, do you have to do a new one? Yeah, you do.
Disclosures, everything. all
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah. Right. So let's say you had a buyer and you had all the useful information and the ABA and all that, and then they're no longer your client for a while, and then they come back. You need to do it again. If it's just a matter of time, you could do the brokerage agreement amendment and say the deadline for this agreement now goes and put how many days, like 30 days, 90 days, whatever that is. Okay.
Also for listing, same.
Yeah. All right. What do y'all got? What's been going on?
While we're on the topic of rentals,
Yes, go ahead.
I had an agent say to me that we'd have to be there for the walkthrough. Is this correct? I've always been there. I've always had agents be there during my walkthroughs. So I just kind of wanted to come on and ask.
Yeah,
Is that?
actually the lease says it's the tenant and the if it's a walkthrough, you mean they've now signed the lease?
Yeah, they've now signed the lease, getting
No.
ready to move in.
That she may like that, but that's not in the lease in NVAR. It's between the buyer and it's between and the one who's supposed to be doing the walkthrough on a lease, according to NVAR lease, is actually the landlord.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this brings up a really good point. And that is a lot of agents are wanting things done a certain way because that's what their company does, or that's the way they've always done it, or that's the way they think it should be done, but it's not in the agreements. And that's where you say, well, I don't know. Let's take a look at that. Well, this says, and that's where you could pull up that document and say, well, no, it actually says the landlord's supposed to do it. Then is there a reason you need that? Now, this is where, do I go a little bit beyond the call of duty and do it? Sure. Because now the agent who is representative with the landlord may have a word to say about, well, they were this way and that way. And you don't want them to start their next year or two in a bad situation with the landlord. But no, it's not on us to do the walkthrough. Yeah, Kristen.
Yeah, great question. And along those same lines, I guess the question would be, as a tenant agent, when does our relationship with them officially end? Is it once they've signed the lease and they've, and the commission's being processed by the other side?
Yeah.
One, but two, along the lines of scamming, I had a recent situation with a renter that I worked with virtually, and she was about to move in and she couldn't get the payments through the rental company's system. I almost sent an all agents, like, do you know about this property management? Are they legit? Like, and they kept asking for more like tries. And then she had to come to the property on July 1st with a cashier's check. So she canceled all of the other payments. She got charged like $800 in late fees for all those or charges for all those things. But then like I showed up with her to meet the realtor because at one point, Kristen Mason Chris and I were on the phone, like, is this legit? The residential management company seemed legit, but did they like clone everything? Or we got so paranoid based on all the scams down this rabbit hole. And both the tenant and I kind of came to the same worry that we were both being scammed at the same point. Anyway, so we all met together, the realtors, fine. It was legit. She got the key, but she's still having problems with payments and late payments. And now I said I would help her follow up with the rental agency, right? The landlord and such, about the payments and about all the fees. I'm doing this because I'm nice and I want to help out my client, but she's sort of done, right? Our relationship is she's moved in. When does it end? And then do you have any liability? The rental agency then told me we were afraid you guys were a scam, right? So everyone was paranoid on this transaction. And let's say my client turns out to be a scammer and is in that apartment, like, and won't leave. Do I have any liability on that?
Landlords and tenants.
Yeah, hold on. I'm going to send a real quick video out to everybody. Imagine that. I have a video on this. So I'll put in the chat. It's a short, so you don't have to go very long with it. Our duties under the agency agreement are done once the transaction's completed. So anything like what you said, what you're really doing is you're being a nice professional and helping them out. Your liability is that you're doing something that is her job or his job, not your job. And if there's a complaint with the landlord, well, Anthony came in and was giving orders and saying this had to be done and that had to be done. And well, who's Anthony? Well, he was the tenant agent. And the judge goes, why are you over there? Your agency agreement ended on the 30th. Why are you here on the 10th? So that's where that comes from. And it's really a fine line to walk, because what do you not want to sound like? What's that?
Transaction.
Well, a lawyer. And what was that, Sherry? You don't want to sound like you're transactional.
Like it's just transactions. And
I'm
that's all you
done
care
with
about.
you. Take a hike. But at the same time, the lease is pretty clear, you know. Let me pull that up and share that.
But I
Good
think we've all
question.
had
This
we've
is
all
really
had
a good question.
situations.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one where the moving truck is there and the agency on the other side, it was property management on the other side said he didn't have time to bring the keys and could I come and get them? And the truck is there. And this is my client was the tenant.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to I can bring them tomorrow. Well, that's
Oh
not
my
going to help.
gosh. Yeah. That's where we get into the whole thing. That was last week, wasn't it? What do you do when you got a unprofessional agent? And that's where you do kind of cross over and say, I'm going to take care of this because it's just the right thing to do. And honestly, I want referrals from my people. This is the paragraph here. Can y'all see it on the screen? Whoops.
Yes.
Within 5 days after the beginning of lease term, landlord will submit a written report to tenant itemizing the condition of premises at occupancy, including the identification of any visible evidence of mold. Now, if they're not using the VRLTA lease and they got their own lease as property management, they may not have this paragraph in there. So when you see that lease, you need to look for the move-in inspection clause. Who's responsible? This report is for information only, does not constitute an agreement to decorate, alter, repair, or improve premises. That line right there gives me a moment to pause and to go to other terms and list the items that we saw that needed attention. Like we saw, hey, the blinds won't go up and down. The light switch in the kitchen's not working. All right, so what do you do with that? You come down here. Was that up here? Yeah. Not here. So I would have an addendum to this that holds the seller feet to the fire. I saw another one, as is items. Now, right there, you don't want that. Yeah, there's nothing else in here that gives order. So I would have a lease addendum and say these items will be repaired by 7 days of moving in or something like that. Now, this also, but the lease walkthrough is on the landlord. Let me just say that. And then you have another form in rental that is the rights and responsibilities and obligations of the tenant and the landlord. And if this is an agent doing the lease rather than a management company, I'll see that form disappear quite a bit. And meaning it's not showing up. Statement of tenants' rights and responsibilities.
Yeah, Anthony, I've noticed that some of the forms are not in the Wolf transaction, and that's one of them that's not in there.
Yeah, you're right. That one's not in there. So we'll have to get that one in there. I call it the blue form because it's got blue highlights on it. But it runs down what the seller and the landlord and the tenant are supposed to do. And there is a point where you can not move in. Usually when it's about mold or inoperative of heat and water and air, HVAC. If those aren't working, the tenant can say, I'm not moving in. I'm not taking possession, and they can cancel the contract. What we want to happen is everything go through and get done. So the walkthrough, to answer your question long about there, Betsy, is the walkthrough is the landlord according to the VRLTA lease. And then you got these people that are like, hey, I'm done. You're moving in. And why? Because they're done on the 25th. Move-in date's the 1st. It's 6 days later. They feel like I'm finished. I mean, you take care of it. Well, no, you're supposed to have this done. Landlord's out of town, self-managing, all that kind of stuff. So moving into that realm and just getting things done for move-in, fine. Complain against the landlord, not fine. I'm not an attorney. I can point out in the lease what they can do, but I don't do it for them. And what you say there is, look, I wish I could. My license doesn't go beyond the transaction. Because I'm your agent through that transaction. If you have a complaint against your landlord, you need to do the complaint, or you need to get an attorney or a mediator. That's the answer to those. Good question. And it keeps coming up. It just, I bang my head against the door. Why are we still dealing with them? But anyway.
I have a question about going beyond the transaction.
Yeah.
I was the seller agent. It was a 3-acre property, and somewhere in the text along the way, the seller says, "Hey, do you want to buy our mower, our lawnmower?" And the agent on the other side said, "Yes, they'll take it for that amount or whatever." The buyer moves in and has not paid them, and they're like, "What? Why wasn't this taken care of at the title company?" I was like, "That's not part of the real estate deal. It was just something on the side." So do I have any kind of obligation here, or just say, "Listen, I'm sorry, that was supposed to be done between you two, and I gave her they're corresponding, directly now." What do you think?
That's it. You did the right thing.
That's it. Okay.
Because now you've got the buyer that just, I forwarded their information to them. Maybe if it comes up again, email them both and then back out. So I need you two need to solve this. And so I'm going beyond my license. Don't say I'm going beyond my duty. I'm going beyond the transaction. Say I'm going beyond my license, but I'm going to connect you two together to make sure y'all have each other's email address. That's the way I've done that.
I've done that with the text, so they're in direct communication.
Then you're done. It's up to the seller now.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, I've seen checks cross the table from a buyer to a seller for different items, and that's how they've done it. And one was like, "We just filled up the fuel. We want you to give us. Here's the receipt." And the buyer walks in with a check and pays for the fuel outside of closing. Yeah.
How something like that? If they wanted to buy it between them, I said I would create what we call a personal property receipt.
Okay.
Between the two of them. Have them sign off.
Okay.
That keeps me out of it.
Yeah. Then you had that at the settlement table?
So I would say this is what we would do to my buyer. If I owe the seller, let's create a receipt that says buyer will purchase the item and to be paid outside the closing or whatever.
Yeah.
And have it signed off.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm totally other.
If y'all didn't hear that, she does a personal property document and probably just a letter with 2 signature blocks. Hey, the buyer and seller agree. The buyer's going to buy this from the seller for $300 or $600 and to be paid outside of closing. That leaves it open. It'd be great if there was a deadline and a consequence, but then you're getting a little unfriendly. But yeah, the buyer may just be like, I'm running with my hair on fire and I just haven't gotten to it. Yeah. The challenge
Okay.
with that. Yeah. So anyway,
Thank you.
yeah.
Anthony, if anybody's going to do that kind of transaction, just have bill of sale at the top.
Yeah. Good.
That's the easiest thing. Make it very clear as to what the purpose is, and then let them fill it out however.
Yeah.
they
Leah
want.
said when you said that, she remembered that's what they put as just bill of sale. Okay. Anything else going on? All right. We talked about the Zoom scanners. All right. One last one. Buyer or seller dies during the contract. Is the deal done? What do you do?
That's dead, isn't it?
That's what I'm asking y'all. I need help on this one. Y'all tell me.
My understanding is that it's dead, just like the individual who has passed away. If it's the buyer, if it's the seller, can the buyer still go through?
I think so. If it's the seller died, the contract is still valid, right? But the buyer, if it died, stop there because there's no money to borrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the correct answer. I can't find the contract right now, but here's what it is for a seller, it says that the heirs will sell it or the estate will sell it. I don't see the right contract here.
But if there were 2 sellers, husband and wife.
Right.
Wife died.
Same thing. Yeah, I had one where it was really weird. The husband was in kidney dialysis twice a day, you know. I mean, he was the one that really sick. And she came in and fell and hit her head and she died. And but the husband said, this is what we wanted to do, so we're going to go ahead and go through. It's a really touchy situation when that happened. When the buyer dies, I think I forget who said it. There's no way for them to get money now, so it's dead. You can't move. You can't force them to do something they can't do now. When the seller dies, the contract does have a pathway for the estate or the heirs to sell it. Let's say it's the breadwinner and that person dies. The other one may say, look, I got to stay here because we were going to go buy with the money from this, but his job or her job was also making the pay. We can't do that now. And then it's a matter of the parties coming together with an arrangement of some sort. You know, it might be that the buyer is like, I get it. I'm out, cancel. Others might say, well, let's sell, but then you stay there as a tenant for a certain amount of time if they can do that financially. Or they just say, I'm sorry, we got nowhere else to go either. You need to sell to us and do what you need to do on your end. If you're the listing agent, I would submit, let's have a talk with what are your options as far as moving out. What other family can you go live with? What friends can you live with? What storage you have? It's problem solving per the contract. The contract says you got to sell where it is legally binding. They will not let you out. So let's problem solve how to get through this and move on with the next chapter of your life. Haven't had that side. I have had the seller die with my buyer. But we had one this week. The seller died and the agent, they said, we can still sell, but now we got to go to probate. And the buyer's like, I don't have that kind of time. So they want out of the transaction. So, all right. That's all I got.
Did you say that we're going to go over some new contracts?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that is not all I got. There we go. Great. Keep me on the spot there, girl. Thank you.
I do listen.
All right, here we go. So to our newer agents in Virginia, we have new form, not new, we have updated forms and sometimes new forms that come in from NVAR, and it's January 1 and July 1. In Maryland, it only happens in October each year. So what we have here is the residential sales contract. There was added language to clarify parking space and storage unit information. So let's see what that looks like. It's usually right here. Here we go, right there. Wow, bing. So parking, limited element, assigned parking, unassigned number of spaces, and or fee simple parking space. Oh, that's good. That's real good. And now it's a 12-page document. And then storage. That's good. And then they said something about paragraph 19. Oh, title. Great. What did they say? A limited common element is provided by the HOA and not, okay, that's all they put in there. All right. Sales contract of unimproved land, updated definitions in addition, paragraphs to mirror the updates to the okay, same thing. Contingency and clauses, added requirement that a buyer's home must be listed in active status in the MLS within negotiated number of days after ratification. Oh, so not just listed, but listed in active. I could see that. I listed it. It's incoming soon. I listed it. It's an office exclusive. Active status, what does that bypass? Anyone think that one through? Compass and Company. Anyone that it's got to be in the MLS, active status. I'll take it, but it's got to be like this. Yeah. Conventional financing, contingency, add a definition of interest rate. Okay. This is not a change to the contingency or purpose of the interest rate. Be sure to verify interest rate availability with lender prior to making offer. Sale of property subject to lease addendum. Add a review period of lease documents, added language for when lease documents are unavailable or do not exist. Let's take a look at that one. Yeah, good. You don't give me the lease documents, I can get out. That's good. And then here's the review period. That's good. Yeah. And here's the security deposit. So when you sell a house that has a tenant in it, the new owner is now an owner. So they have to come through and update that. This is a relatively newer form, but those are two good updates there. Okay. Private well and septic, one of my favorite ones. All right, let's see what they said. Amended paragraph 2B1. All right. Okay. Oh, here we go. Prior to septic inspection, seller will remove any landscaping, personal property, or improvement that impedes septic inspection or prevents system components from being readily accessible. System components are not considered readily accessible if access requires removal of surface material exceeding 30 inches. Huh. Okay. If inspector identifies that the system is not readily accessible, then the buyer will deliver notice within 1 day to the seller of the need to remove it. Seller will remove the impediments within 5 days. Notice they will remove it or deliver notice that they will not remove the impediments. If the seller does not remove the impediments or the system is not made readily accessible within the required time, the buyer can void the contract. I could see that have been an issue. Yeah. All right, here's a piece of weird information you may want to share with people. 6% of the houses in Virginia have a septic system. There you go, 6%. Just so you know. No, 1 in 6. That's what I meant. 1 in 6. So that's like 12 or 13%. Brought subject property information back to added parking information, added when the first month's full rent is due, updated occupants, I can clarify the list of authorized occupants. Oh, that's good. Occupants are, no authorized occupants are. Paragraph 12, added well and septic to paragraph 12. Remove the requirement for tenant to maintain exterior gutters. Oh, wow. I mean, get your gutters cleared out, Mr. Landlord. Consolidate all provisions related to early termination. Updated the transfer pursuant to service members. Oh, updates of federal guidelines. Updates include removing requirement be terminated more than 60 days from date. Okay. This actually comes up. How much notice do I have to give them? Well, updates include removing requirement that lease cannot be terminated more than 60 days from date necessary to comply with orders. Updates include removing requirement that lease cannot be terminated. Okay. We'll definitely have our attorney come in and go through these with us. And now the renter has 14 days to cure unpaid payments instead of 5 days. All right. Now, this form right here, landlord notice regarding non-payment of rent, this would usually be something that like a property management company. We're supposed to be the ones that use this, but it's actually the landlord that's giving the notice. And this is when they're deep into a lease. So this goes back to, when does our responsibility end? So this is where, well, here's what we can do, Bob. I will help you get through this. Let's have an agreement that I'm going to do this for $500. Here's the listing agreement. I've done updates on leases for my landlords, and they just want it amended to extend it a year, or they want a new lease, a new price. And I'll say, sure, I'll do it for you for $500. So my time's my time, and my expertise and everything. So I can see you doing this and saying, hey, I'll put this all together, and but then you got to sign it. And you're not the authorized agent, by the way. Okay. You are, unless you get a agreement with them, you're not the authorized agent. They may have someone in town that's the authorized agent. Okay. All right. That's it on the forms. This is not a complete update. We will have that lined up probably with Universal Title, and we'll get that done.
So Anthony, if we're in loan Wolf transaction and we notice a form that isn't there, should we just email you and David?
Yeah, just email David. I'm going to pawn that off on him. So there we go.
That's what he gets for not showing up, right?
Yeah. Well, no. That's kind of, that's his territory. Yeah. All right.